ready to go into our space. Let's take 3 deep breaths together. And with a deep in-breath, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Here we go. The Four Agreements, a wonderful book by Don Miguel Ruiz, a Toltec wisdom book. We've been studying the Four Agreements. We've studied the first 2, which are be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, and the third one is don't make assumptions. Today we'll finish our look at don't make assumptions and take it a little bit deeper. This is chapter 5 in the book, and the title of it is Truth or Fiction. Our society places a lot of importance on being attractive, according to the images we see in the media, on television, in the movies, in fashion magazines. And it's true. Who do we see on television as our heroes? Attractive people. And the lovely people in the movies and fashion magazines. Although I think there's a new fashion magazine out now for full-bodied women who had some reaction to all the skinny models in most fashion magazines. But we place importance on being attractive. If we believe that we are not attractive enough, according to these images, then we believe a lie. If we believe we're not attractive enough, according to the images, we believe a lie, and we are using the word against ourselves, against the truth. So attractive is an opinion, but my goodness, how easy it would be to use the word against ourselves, particularly when we're teenagers. If our bodies aren't quite shaped the way we think attractive bodies ought to be shaped, and our faces aren't shaped the way we think attractive faces, and our noses aren't shaped the way we think, then in that judgment, we believe a lie, and we're using the word against ourselves, against the truth. The people in control of the media tell us what to believe, don't they? What to believe, how to dress, what looks good, what to eat. My goodness, if I paid attention to what the television commercials said, I'd be eating sugary cereals every morning. And they manipulate the humans like puppets, the media. If they want us to hate someone, they spread gossip all around, and the lies work their magic. We looked at this last time, didn't we? Some of those propaganda images from the war, where the propagandists wanted us to hate the enemy so that we would feel justified in disrespecting them and in killing even the innocent members of that group. Their lies work their magic. When we stop being puppets, it's obvious that our lives have been guided by lies and superstition. So, how do we stop being puppets? Actually,
Turn off the TV.
not the TV. I agree. Are we discerning what channels you watch? Certainly mute the commercials, huh? So, how do we stop being puppets? Turn off the TV. What else? What else? What images are already in our minds that we soaked up before we turned off the TV? So, how do we go about that? If the media believed in the perfection of everything in creation, now this is a supposition, they don't. If the media believed in the perfection of everything, we talked about perfection last time, how the truth is everything is perfect, nothing is imperfect. Now, if the media believed that, and the perfection of everything in creation, especially including every human, all the humans, no exceptions, being perfect, would we crucify them for their beliefs? Our understanding of Jesus from his teachings is he saw no imperfections in anyone. He consorted with what we would consider the low life of the day, prostitutes, lepers. In those days, there were classes of people who were held in high esteem, and there were classes held in low esteem. And these days, we don't perhaps understand it so well, but the Samaritans in the days of Jesus were the low life. Nobody wanted to associate with Samaritans. They were the bad guys, the terrorists, the rapists, the gangsters. They were the Samaritans. So Jesus was crucified, perhaps for his belief that we should not judge anyone and consort with all. We're all perfect. Truth doesn't come with words. That is to say, with knowledge. We've heard this again and again, and it's really hard to digest. Truth doesn't come with words, that is to say, with knowledge. When we look at the whole scientific literature, all the science, everything we learned in school, it was all knowledge. And it was communicated to us via words we heard the teacher say, or words we read in books. So we got this idea of what was true and what was not true through the words. Later on, we may have learned that the way scientists decide truth is through consensus. So if someone comes up with a theory, like Einstein came up with a theory, the first step is that everyone agree with it, or at least a group of people agree. Yeah, that's the truth. The next part of establishing the truth is no one can come up with any exceptions, any examples where that's not true. So if there's no examples where it's not true and all the scientists agree, then it's decided that's truth and it's put into the knowledge books. That's how scientists decide what's true knowledge and not.
It's really I want to pause here for a moment, if you will, Steve. It reminds me of like the pure observation that everyone agrees. Stepping back from the evaluation in the interpretation, in the judgmental beliefs or the beliefs that we're holding on to, that we believe is right or wrong. When we step back and look at a pure observation, this is what this section here reminds me of, is pure observation. What is the scientific facts?
That's it. It's pure observation. You're 100% right. The interesting observation here is, though, you see something and it's true for you. Someone else sees that very same thing and they don't see what you see. Or they interpret it differently. And that interpretation comes when we start to apply words to what we experience. Someone says, "What did you see?" So truth doesn't come with words, knowledge doesn't come with words, but lies do. So that's the important thing. We want to focus not so much on what our truth is, but what the lies are. And the lies come with words. The lies depend upon knowledge. So that's the interesting thing. Which among our store of knowledge are lies, or maybe partial truths? Well, unfortunately, there are billions of lies. How to sort them all out? Humans believe so many lies because we aren't aware. So just like you said, Sam, awareness of what we observed, re-observing, looking deeply at our observations is awareness, taking us out of our mental gymnastics. We ignore the truth, or we just don't see the truth. We're not willing to be aware. We're stuck on the symbols, the words. Anyway, it's the best we got, so we're doing our best with it. But we need to be that awareness is what lies at truth for all of us. When we are domesticated as kids, we accumulate a lot of knowledge. And all that knowledge is just like a wall of fog that doesn't allow us to perceive the truth, what really is. That's why when you, Sam, look at something and I look at something, we have that knowledge in us, that wall of fog. So when we perceive a truth, somehow we're misled. We see it through our previous knowledge, and it's really hard for us to see what really is. Some of the greatest scientific discoveries are made by men who have the interesting ability to put aside their previous ideas of the way things are and just really take a hard look at what really is. And by really focusing on what is, observing new things that somehow escape their attention that they didn't pay attention to before. And once these scientists observe that, start making some experience with their new observations, point it out to everyone else, everyone goes, aha, I got it, yeah. What a great inventor, scientist that person is. They saw something that was in front of everybody, but we didn't notice it. So the wall of fog. In a way, we only see what we want to see. What we want to see. We only hear what we want to hear. And this explains how different people looking at the same thing see what they want to see, hear what they want to hear. You know, some people, when they see these examples that we've seen again and again of what's called police brutality, some people see police brutality, other people see it differently. They only see what they want to see. Some people see blue lives matter because we see what we want to see, we hear what we want to hear. Our belief system is just like a mirror. It only shows us what we want to believe. I think this is particularly true in our political season. If we want to believe something about a particular person who's running for office, our belief system is like a mirror, and it just shows us what we believe. The things that we don't believe, that seem so obvious, just don't come through. Don't come through. Of course, we notice this mostly about others. My goodness, can't they see what's true? Why are they averting their eyes? But we're not here to fix others. We're here to work on ourselves and see if there's some areas in ourselves where we have that same human trait. As we grow throughout our lives, we learn so many lies that the whole structure of our lives becomes very complicated. This is an issue. Our partial truths, our lies, partial lies become so interconnected and so complicated, they support each other.
Steve, I wanted to just share that when we find ourselves with incongruency within ourselves, we can connect to the life wisdom and see through the fog by spitting out what we're trying to say, that are lies, examining it, taking the ownership back and say, what am I feeling about that?
Mm-hmm.
What's the body sensations that's going on inside me? And release to the fact of forgiveness and be supported by guessing the universal human needs that we all share. It's this delicate self-empathy practice. And when we do that, it makes this process a little bit more viable and we can get through it rather than pushing it aside and saying, I'm bad, I'm wrong, I did this terribly, I was a bad son, I was a bad father, I was a bad mother, I was a bad daughter, whatever. And just looking at it from what happened truly with pure observation and then own it by feeling the feelings and letting go. I think it can be the functional aspects of taking this to the next level. Anyway, just a thought.
I agree with you, Sam.
Yeah, thanks, Sam.
I agree with you, Sam. And I would suggest the example I just brought up of what on the media some people call police brutality, and other people call police doing their best, trying to do their job protecting us. And I think if whichever way we interpret it, we follow your suggestion and go deeper, what we're really experiencing when we see those videos, no matter what our position is, fear. We're feeling fear. Some people are feeling fearful that their lives could be in danger in a similar situation. Some people are feeling fearful that people they are afraid of, if not kept under control by the forces of law and order, their lives could be in danger if we didn't have a system of law and order to protect us. We're afraid if that system is diminished. So all those structures of lies become so complicated, and as you point out, we see the world through that structure of beliefs rather than just admitting there's just one truth, which in this example I just gave is, oh my gosh, I see that, and my deepest feeling comes up as fear. I have fear of outcomes. This reminds me of how afraid I am of outcomes. And we make it even more complicated because we think and we believe in what we think. And that's what we've been talking about We see something, the feeling is fear, but we start thinking. And all these thoughts come up, different thoughts for different people with different belief structures. And instead of being in touch with the feelings, we believe in what we think. So two groups looking at the same thing with totally different belief systems, perhaps, totally believing it and just outraged that the other guys can't believe what we believe. We make the assumption. There we go. We make the assumption that what we believe is the absolute truth. See, it's not, it's the feeling that's the absolute truth. But we make the assumption that what we believe is the absolute truth. We never stop to consider that our truth always is a relative truth, what we call a virtual truth. Every single one of our beliefs is a virtual truth. It's a relative truth. It's based on all the thoughts, the symbols. So perhaps this is the first step for anyone to step back from these strong emotions that might come up with regard to what's going on in the world today, and to step back from what we believe and knowing that a truth is a relative truth, the beliefs are a virtual truth. What we think may not be even close to the truth. Might be, might not be. But it's the closest we can get without awareness. So what we think may not be close to the truth. It might be and believe, but it's the closest we can get without awareness. And awareness in this example was getting in touch with feelings rather than beliefs of what we're seeing. I have a little exercise now. If you'd like to participate, because it's one thing to look at others and see how well they have those beliefs and they're not aware and can't see the truth, but we're doing a much better job. Our beliefs are much closer to the truth. We're aware. So let's go through a little exercise, since the work we're doing here is on ourselves, not on others. See what comes up. You ready? There we go.
Right.
I guess that's a yes. Exercise, what we believe. What we believe. So the question I have, are we willing to look at some old beliefs, some old thought structures, ones that we may have picked up as kids, beliefs that perhaps are still active? We pick up a lot of things as kids, don't we? Some of the things we pick up as kids serve us well today. And we're so grateful that we got that knowledge, that belief, because those beliefs have the result of, instead of living as if life were hell, it makes us live as if life were in heaven. And those wonderful beliefs. We have some other things we picked up as kids that may make us fearful in certain situations. And then life feels like it's not so much heaven, but kind of hell. So what we're going to do in the exercise, if you're willing, is we're just going to take a deep breath. I'm going to ask you some questions. And your job is just to see what comes up, whatever comes up. And whatever comes up is the perfect thing to come up, doesn't matter. And if nothing comes up, that's perfect too. Just allow yourself to go with the flow and see what comes up for you. So here we go. I'll begin asking the questions. Say to yourself, when I was a little kid, I saw something on television and I never forgot it. When I was a little kid, I saw on television, and I never forgot it. See what comes up. Next. When I was a little kid, my neighbor did or said this, and I never forgot it. When I was a little kid, my neighbor did or said, and I never forgot it. Next. When I was a little kid, my father told me, and I never forgot it. When I was a little kid, my father told me, and I never forgot it. Next. When I was a little kid, my mother told me, and I never forgot it. My mother told me, and I never forgot it. Next. When I was a little kid, my teacher told me, and I never forgot it. My teacher told me, and I never forgot it. When I was a little kid, my friends told me, and I never forgot it. My friends told me, and I never forgot it. That's the end of the exercise. Some things may have come up for you with these prompts, and perhaps nothing came up. Whatever did or didn't come up was just perfect for you. And of the things that came up, some things, as we look at them now, we might be so grateful for. Because those things have helped make our life beautiful, successful. Other things that came up may have been just neutral, just a nice memory. Other things that came up may have brought you some challenges in the way you approach life, so that life wasn't always a bowl full of cherries, some experience. This exercise was designed to internalize what we've been discussing so we can apply it to ourselves. It's so easy to apply to others, but we want to work on ourselves. Anyone have anything to share before we press on with more information about the sorts of things that came up for us?
I guess that knowing what some of them are is helpful, but to get rid of what some of these things are that are in our subconscious is another challenge. Even though we know, like I was told when I was a child, you don't go downtown; it's dangerous downtown. You stay close to your home where it's safe. So I'm anxious going in a city. And I know that. I know where that came from, and I would like for that not to be, but it's still there.
I got it. So the question you bring up is, there it is. I wish it weren't there. And it is still there. It still comes up for me, even in the present moment. Is that right?
Correct. Even though I know it's not truth. I know it was my mother's truth. It's not my truth. Unless I take it on as my truth.
Usually things like that are stuck with us. They're never going to go away. However, we can change our relationship with those things that come up for us, like that.
Mm-hmm.
We can change our relationship. As you said, you've made a bit of a change. You say to yourself, oh, I don't believe it. And yet the emotion still comes up when you head downtown, even though you perhaps overcome it and go anyway. So we need to change our relationship with those things that don't make our life beautiful. The first step you've already taken, which is to be aware that we have that thought or belief in us that was placed in us. So you made the first step. And I believe that the next step is, when those sorts of things come up, to change the relationship even further with that thought and say, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that thought. I'm grateful for everything. I have no complaints whatsoever.
Whatsoever.
Thank you, God, for that thought. I so appreciate it. I have no complaints whatsoever. And when we take that attitude of gratitude towards things like that, we're able to shift our relationship with it and perhaps see underneath it, which is, I'm guessing, your mother loved you.
Mm-hmm.
Mother
Absolutely.
loved you. She sure did. And she wanted to protect you. So she was doing her best to protect you and keep you safe. Now, it wouldn't be the way that you would choose, perhaps, to keep your own child safe. But that's what's underneath it. So when that thought comes up, if you can be grateful for it, you get back in touch with how much your mother loved you. And that was the true message. And she wanted you to be safe. Thank you. Thank you, God. I have no complaints whatsoever. I know my mother loved me.
And replace fear with gratitude whenever I can.
Yes, you may choose some other relationship with that thought or other thoughts like that.
No, that's very helpful. That's a really good picture. Yeah, thank you.
I give that to you as an example of how whatever comes up for us, we can change our relationship to it, even if we can't get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
So we can choose how we wish to relate to that thing. And that was one example of how you can relate to that particular thought.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
Or you may choose some other relationship, or you may have that relationship that I just suggested with the thought now, and you may have a different relationship with it in the future as you yourself go along your spiritual path. any other thoughts or sharing before we see what Don Ruiz has to tell us? I'll share one. When I was in elementary school, my teacher told me, "You're bad at handwriting." She gave me a D. I wasn't supposed to get D's, not F's, but not even D's. I was supposed to get A's or at least B's, a C or two, but I got a D in handwriting.
Mm.
I was ashamed. And I label myself a bad handwriter. Later on in life, this didn't really have too much effect on me. It didn't make my life too much of a hell, but it wasn't the best sort of thing to carry around. So the way I reformed my relationship with that thought, which is never going to go away, is I took up calligraphy.
Oh.
And I was able to create some beautiful calligraphy. And I just laughed then at that old thought. Still there, still strong, but I have a relationship with it. Well, I may be a bad handwriter, but I can still do calligraphy. Beautiful.
That brings up the thought of the first agreement is be impeccable with your word. Every time you say I am, whatever follows it is a belief system.
A symbol.
And
right.
to notice that is really kind of helpful.
I'm a bad handwriter.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Steve, I just want to share how much I appreciate you bringing up this exercise of looking at the truth from fiction and looking inward to look at the pure observation. It really helps. Once we get to that point, we're like over 50% there, right? It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then what's the feeling? And then sit with the feeling. And then what's the underlying story behind what we're believing to be true, in quotations, right?
Right.
It's that awakening moment of just realizing, wow, I'm in belief instead of actual truth. Okay, all right, I got it now. That is a great life skill. Thank you, Steve.
You know, Sam, that teacher who gave me the D. Teachers have a challenge. I think they've changed the way they teach elementary school students these days. I don't think they give grades. I think they give okays or something. They try to take away the judgmental aspect because I've been a teacher. Now, you have an obligation to do a couple of things. One is to teach people and bring them along and help them learn, get better. The other obligation you have is to give an honest appraisal of where they're at. So they can look at that appraisal honestly and say, oh, I need to work on this. And this I'm doing well at. So here was that teacher. Now her job was to encourage me to be a good handwriter. And I think at the time she did her best. But my hands just weren't responding very well. And perhaps she thought, well, rather than paper over it and say the handwriting is B or C quality, it's really D quality. And I wanted to point this out to little Stevie, that he has D handwriting, so it'll be an area he can work on to improve because I love him and want him to be better at handwriting.
Yeah.
Mm.
That was the way she may have seen it, because my elementary school teachers were all loving in my experience. But I did not see that D, I'm guessing, the way she saw it.
Yeah. You were way too young to see it that way.
Too young. So I saw it as a label as to who I was.
Yes, right.
Not
exactly.
Good. And perhaps she meant for it to be an encouragement that this is an area that you need to work on. So two people seeing the same reality with different belief systems coming to different results.
But your spiritual light can see the difference. And I think that's what the whole gist of this process, what we're trying to uncover, is the spiritual beings that we are, about our human experience. And if we can stay in that spiritual light and distinguish the difference between that pure observation and how we take it. Oh, I got a D. Oh, that hurts, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes,
Like,
but little Stevie followed this advice, the third agreement. Don't make assumptions. Don't assume you're a lousy, stinking handwriter. And
right.
you're stuck with that all your life. You're just no good. You never will be at handwriting. Don't make assumptions.
Right.
And a teacher on her part, don't make assumptions that little Stevie's going to see this as an incentive to work harder on his handwriting and improve. Don't make assumptions. Well, we have to do our best. So we all do our best. Anyway, we want to learn this a lesson for ourselves, for our internal work. Don't make assumptions. Well, one big assumption we make is that everything in our virtual reality is the truth. It's an easy assumption. Whatever thoughts come up for us is the truth. We just seen some examples of how that's not so. Another big assumption we make is that everything in everyone else's virtual reality is the truth. So whatever the teacher told us, or friends told us, mother, father told us, their virtual reality, that's the truth. We make that assumption. It may not be. Now you know that none of the virtual realities are the truth. They're not. They're just interpretations based on assumptions. We're doing the best we can, but they're just interpretations based on assumptions. Humans have a powerful imagination, very powerful. And there are so many ideas and stories that we can imagine. I have such a powerful imagination. I'm guessing you guys do too. And when I get a story in my head, it just takes off and goes here, goes there. My imagination can get very active. We listen to the symbols talking in our head, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
I know when I go on my morning walks, the first part of the walk, I allow my symbols to talk to me. I give them free rein to say whatever they want to say. And the second part of the walk, I try and put a lid on and be more focused. So I listen to all those symbols. Oh my gosh, they just jump here and there. Talk, talk, talk. We start imagining what other people are doing, what they are thinking, what they're saying about us, and we dream things up in our imagination. How people are. Someone perhaps whom we perceive as, we find annoying or irritating. Well, can we dream things up about them in our imagination? We invent a whole story that's only truth for us, but we believe it if we're not careful. That story just pops up. One assumption leads to another assumption. We jump to conclusions and we take our story very personally. We can, unless we learn how to step back from it. Then we blame other people. Well, it's their fault the story came up in my head. They're the ones to blame for what I'm thinking now and how I perceive the situation. And we sometimes start gossiping to try to justify our assumptions. Whoa. We start gossiping. We get on the phone with our friends. And we want to justify ourselves. We want to be right. Of course, by gossiping, a distorted message. And somehow when we gossip, we just got to put a slant on it. It's the nature of gossip. the distorted message becomes even more distorted. We wonder if we still believe that message. Making assumptions and then taking them personally is the beginning of hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're doing it all by ourselves.
You're welcome to say that again, Steve. That was classic.
Making assumptions, taking personally is the beginning of hell. And the world, personal hell.
Yeah.
Someone gets pissed off at you and says, go to hell. You can just tell them, too late. I'm already there. I've been making assumptions. And I take everything personally.
That was hilarious. Thank you.
Well, it's good we can laugh at it. Just a little distance. Almost all of our conflicts are based on this. And it's easy to understand why. Assumptions are nothing more than lies in general that we're telling ourselves. This creates a big drama for nothing because we don't really know if something is true or not. So we got these dramas that are going on inside of us. Oh, I'm outraged about this and outraged about that. But we don't really know, not really, what the assumptions are, what they're not. And if drama is happening in someone else's story, so what? If your mother-in-law has a drama, if your child has a drama, if your sibling has a drama, your grandchildren, your parents, so what? Do we have to respond to it and react to it? Or can we allow them to have their drama and trust that they're responsible for working through their own drama, not our responsibility?
Yeah, most of us, including me, have this wonderful opportunity for empathy, for the support to let go of our assumptions. And empathy is what we truly want, but we don't know how to ask for it.
But you know that's where, and this is a really good self-training, I guess we're kind of working on, is the difference between empathy and compassion. Because the world right now has so many difficult things going on, and so many people are hurting so deeply that if we take all that on, we just destroy ourselves. We can't function. So it's a way of getting out of the empathetic part of it, where we think we have to fix other people's problems, and getting into just being compassionate for them and acknowledging their worth and allowing them to solve their own problems, because we can't do it for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a really big self-training too, because
Yeah.
I tend to jump right in there with that empathy, and it's destructive to me.
Yeah, the quality of empathy that I'm referring to is what we've been practicing for past 10 years when Steve brought the BP's practice. What was then called BP's, now it's called the connection practice, which is really, to my understanding, is just the self-grounding of heart math, of feeling peace within, so that it can be fully present to ourselves and or the other with the language of peace, which is, what am I telling myself? And my body sensation as a result of that story, which is not true. The assumptions, what am I feeling?
Yeah, okay.
And there's a beautiful underlying need there. What is the need? More understanding, more peace, more self-loving kindness? Is it just my need to speak my truth and I didn't? That's my big one. My need for authenticity. You know, and then if we give ourselves that self-gift of self-empathy, now we can detach and untangle or unpack our thought process of assumptions.
Okay.
I'm grateful for Steve bringing that practice to us 10 years ago. it's been the most meaningful, life-changing experience I've ever had. So I am deeply grateful.
Thank you, Sam. I have an observation that I want to put forth.
Sure.
Because the Be Peace or connection practice is so powerful. In our relationship with others, when we see that there is something going on there, and we feel an urge to offer empathy or compassion for ourselves, I believe, the very first step we have to take before anything else is to look deep inside ourselves and ask this question: is this person open to receive empathy now? Is this person in a space where any empathy I offer would be received with gratitude? Or is this person in a space where any attempt I make at empathy, no matter how loving and thoughtful, would be received as an intrusion on my personal space? We can't ask people, would you like to have some empathy? We just do that in our practice sessions in class. But we can look on ourselves and see, is this person open for empathy? And unfortunately, when people are really stuck in a position and we can see it, they may not most of the time be open for empathy. And that's when we have to draw on compassion and just feel a loving sense of their presence and engage in the noble silence.
That's a very good distinction. Thank you, Steve. The deep sacred listening before the empathy. Yeah.
Sometimes true compassion is engaging in noble silence, being the witness. So that's our discernment. Anyway, and the whole point is it's someone else's story. So what? It's not your story, it's someone else's story. It's just their story. If you're a parent, you know how easy it is to make assumptions about your children. Don't make assumptions. If not taking anything personally gives you immunity in your interaction you have with other people. So this is an important point, which I think we'll close on. So if now we've gotten so far along, if not taking anything personally, it gives you immunity from the arrows and slings and arrows and spurs you have in the interaction with other people. Now you're immune to it. You're not reacting because you see that you're not taking it personally. It's just something going on with them. So if you've gotten that far, then not making assumptions gives you immunity in the interaction that you have with yourself. So if you cannot react to others and feel some immunity, all those things they're saying that reactivate you and piss you off, outrage you. If you've gone to that step, the next step is not making assumptions about your own interactions coming up for yourself and not sort of reacting to your reactions. That's the next step. Just notice that you have them. And that gives you immunity from your voice of knowledge, or what we call thinking. So our immunity is 2 steps. Step 1, from all those hurtful things we hear others saying. Step 2 is all that clackety-clack we hear in our minds. So we get some immunity from our own virtual truths, voice of knowledge, what we call thinking. I have a bit more, but I think we need to close now. Any final comments before we close?
If we have time, could you maybe in layman's terms define how you're using in this context thinking?
I have thoughts in my mind, Sam. I think in terms of stories. Melodramas come along, I go over them in my mind, and they play themselves out.
Okay, thank you.
They seem real.
Yeah, to me, my initial reaction to thinking is like it's discernment. That's how I determine thinking. So it's okay. Thank you for that clarity.
Yeah, thinking is just all the thoughts that come in our heads. Bing, bang, boom. We think, we do our best. We've learned a lot. You've learned a lot about BP's practice and the connection practice. So bing, bang, boom, all those thoughts come up in your head so beautifully and assist you and help you. So we're grateful, you're grateful for all those thoughts and the stories and the ideas and the progression and the logic of it all. Can you now have immunity from that voice of knowledge that we've heard from you? So it's there, it's available to you, but it doesn't run you.
You've got choices as to what you're going to think, I think. Examine your thoughts rather than have them run you.
Yeah, we got those thoughts, and often the sorts of thoughts we have repeat. We repeat them again and again and again because they're so present to others. We believe them. We need to have the ability, and that's what I would call discernment, to step back from our own ideas and beliefs and thoughts, recommendations, how the world is, how the world isn't. So we can step back even from that. That's our voice of knowledge. So that we're immune from it. We got it. We use it insofar as it's helpful, but we're always able to step back from it so it doesn't own us. It's just a tool we have.
Thank you.
And we're open to getting new tools and finding that some aspects of the tools we've had and used so successfully perhaps can evolve as well. We're not fixed on keeping them exactly as they are.
Yeah, very
Just
good.
Open to reality as it shows up. Aha! You know, I've always told everyone this is the way you should do it. You do like this and follow my example. And I just became aware in this moment of something that I wasn't aware of before. That's immunity from your voice of knowledge, or what we call thinking.
Yeah, I met my needs for clarity. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Steve.
God bless us all. I'm going to figure out
Thank
now
you.
how I can stop sharing. And we're going to close now. So let's take 3 deep and conscious breaths together. And with a deep in breath. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Well, I think we did it.
Have a good weekend. Rest of your weekend.
Yes.
Wonderful to see you all.
Good to see you. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Yes, thank
Bye-bye.
you, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.